Hello, everybody. This is Catholic Dad, episode 112. Run towards the gunfire to build a unique Catholic culture. And what does that mean? And I guess I'm addressing men here. And so, if you're in a mall, right, and you hear some gunfire and a couple pop, 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 which direction are you supposed to run in? Now, most people would say you run away from the gunfire because you want to preserve yourself. But if you're in a gunfire and there's a bunch of women and children, somebody's going to have to deal with the guy with the gun, right? And are we going to ask our women and children to step up and fight our battles? No, we're not. And so I would suggest if you're a strong, able-bodied man and you hear pop, pop, pop in a mall, you run towards the gunfire, okay? Now, this takes a lot of courage. A ton of courage to go do that because you're going to put your neck on the line and you potentially could end up dead, but at least you'll give the guy a little bit of a difficulty trying to mow everybody down. Now, when I say run towards the gunfire, it doesn't necessarily have to be gunfire. It could be theological warfare. It could be spiritual warfare. It could be anything that makes people feel slightly uncomfortable. And this is, so for example, if you're in like a business meeting and somebody says something morally illicit, pertaining to either birth control, contraception, sterilization procedures, abortion, sodomy, or whatever else it is, and you don't agree with it, run towards gunfire and just say it, right? And so, you give them some meaningful resistance. And when I say meaningful resistance, articulate, use reason, and state how you disagree with such positions. Because nobody does that these days. Everybody runs away from the gunfire. Everybody runs away from the hard, difficult conversations. They don't offer any meaningful resistance to other people trying to control other people's behaviors. The politically correct crowd, virtually nobody runs towards them. And so to build unique culture, let's say we had 100 men, okay? And most of them are not going to run towards the gunfire. They're not going to take the hard, difficult task. They're going to try to do things that are easier, more comforting, and they're not going to try to take on the hard conversation or run towards the gunfire or have a physical combat with somebody. But if you have 100 guys and you can convince 15 or 20 of them to offer meaningful resistance in a business meeting or in a town hall meeting or in a PTA meeting or even in a mall with gunfire, 15 to 20 guys. My suspicion is that's all you need to build a solid culture, because a culture is a cultural push. It's, when people bring up certain topics, they're going to feel a cultural push against them. Just a slight little nudge, like, don't go in that direction, go in the other direction. Like, for example, divorce is too easy these days. And for sure it is. I think everybody, even the divorcees out there, have to agree with that. There's no cultural push away from it. In fact, there's a cultural push towards it. Whatever you want, do whatever you want. You're feeling difficult times in your marriage, hardship, and so on and so forth. And so the cultural push is toward the easy. It's toward the easy. But if there are a bunch of good guys, let's say 15 to 20% of them, that stood up and said, you probably shouldn't be doing that. You got to love your wife and take care of her. And enough guys stood up and did that, there'd be a kind of a taboo force behind it. And you wouldn't do it, right? Or less people would do it. And if you had enough people step up, eventually the non-courageous people, the other 85 or 80 to 85 out of 100 people, eventually will join along in the cultural push. And that's how cultures are made. It's when, and it could be male or female, but when people uniformly step up and start doing the hard, difficult things to make moral ills and social ills taboo. And that's how you make certain things taboos. That's how you make a strong, solid culture, so you don't accept virtually anything that anybody wants to do. And so if you want to form a strong culture, you have a whole bunch of men get together and you just agree, listen, we're not going to compromise our moral conscience. We're not going to compromise our ideals. And if anything comes up in society, whether it's regards to prayer in schools or, we want to teach our kids about like the 17 different genders, we're not going to allow it. And we're going to say, no, we're not doing that. And if enough men step up and be real men and say, no, you're not going to corrupt my children. I'm the spiritual protector of that child. I need to get that child to heaven. Then socially, the people that are being the aggressors, the ones that want to teach the 17 different genders in high school or whatever it is, they know they're going to see resistance somewhere along the way, and they'll be far less likely to push their agenda down your throat. But as is, the way it works right now is they're perfectly willing to push the agenda because they have no meaningful resistance from anybody. Nobody's willing to step up and do the hard, difficult thing of saying, no, not on my watch, you're not going to do that because that's wrong, and this is why. Boom, 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 boom. Just go through the reasons. And anyway, so let's build some culture out there. I don't want to say just Catholic culture. Christian culture would work too, where there's actually moral norms in society where you can't do whatever the heck you want no matter what. You can't have 10 wives. You can't have like fornication or, so on and so forth. There's a lot of ills. Like people say here Christian and they withdraw and say, oh, you're going to push your morals on us. Well, no, not really. But do you think a guy should have 15 different partners or a female should have 15 different partners, or should we sell our bodies, or should we, there's a lot of ills and moral ills in society, and we have to keep our passions in check if we want to actually have a moral society where people can grow up and grow safely in. And so this is Catholic Dad making you think about run towards the gunfire to build a strong culture. Do that. And if enough men step up, everybody else will join them. That's the way it works. Okay. Thank you. God bless. Get the Mass. Pray the daily rosary. God bless.